summit. The separate meetings are set to discuss details of a pause in long-range attacks on energy facilities and infrastructure, as well as a ceasefire in the Black Sea to allow the free flow of shipping. Ukraine's defense minister described Sunday's discussions as productive and focused. On the front line, attacks in Ukraine and Russia are continuing. Russia launched a barrage of drones across Ukraine on the weekend that killed at least 7 people, including a father and his 5-year-old daughter in Kyiv. Ukraine is also launching drones, with the Russian military saying it intercepted 28 overnight. I'm Nayan Kim.
Hospitals in Gaza say Israeli strikes across the territory killed at least 25 Palestinians, including several women and children. The strikes overnight come nearly a week after Israel ended its ceasefire with Hamas. Former Utah Congresswoman Mia Love has died. Love was the first black Republican woman elected to Congress, and it was an overwhelmingly white Utah. Love entered politics in 2003, eventually becoming mayor of Saratoga Springs, Utah. She spoke out against President Obama at the 2012 Republican National Convention.
His policies have failed us. We're not better off than we were 4 years ago, and no rhetoric, bumper sticker, or Hollywood campaign ad can change that.
Love won a seat in Congress in 2014 and lost 2 years later. Mia Love had undergone recent treatment for brain cancer. She was 49. A spokesman for the Danish National Police Force say it sent extra personnel and sniffer dogs to Greenland as the icy island steps up security measures ahead of a planned visit this week by Second Lady Usha Vance. It comes at a time when President Trump has suggested the U.S. should take control of Greenland. This is AP News. March Madness.
Derek Queen banked in a fadeaway jumper at the buzzer, and number 4 seed Maryland advanced to the Sweet 16 after beating number 12 seed Colorado State 72-71.
I was a little bit nervous, but I knew like we was due for one, and I had to make this.
Number 1 seed Florida beat 2-time defending champion and 8-seeded UConn. 6-seeded Ole Miss upset 3rd-seeded Iowa State. 2nd seeds Michigan State and Alabama. 3rd-seeded Kentucky and 4th-seeded Arizona are also moving on. In the women's tournament, number 1 seed and defending champion South Carolina dispatched 9-seeded Indiana 64-53 to reach the Sweet 16. Gamecocks coach Don Staley.
Proud of our team, the way they gutted up and didn't flinch.
Top overall seed UCLA, 2nd seed Duke and TCU, and 3rd-seeded Notre Dame prevailed, while 5th seeds Kansas State, Ole Miss, and Tennessee each upset number 4 seeds. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, breezy conditions, some lingering clouds to start, then gradually clearing into the afternoon with highs in the upper 40s. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 33. For Tuesday, a slight chance for some light snow showers in the morning, then turning partly sunny into the afternoon with upper 40s for highs. Wednesday, more in the way of sunshine making a return, a high of 51. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 36.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Someone says smoking. You associate lung cancer. That's good. But Dr. David Burns of the American Lung Association says smoking is linked to many other deadly risks.
Cancers of the mouth, throat, esophagus, pancreas, kidney, urinary bladder, and larynx. Heart disease issues, including heart attacks, strokes, aortic aneurysm, and an increased risk of chronic respiratory illness, and new areas, including macular degeneration, hearing loss, as well as the risk for both gastric cancer and for colorectal cancer.
There are several thousand compounds in cigarette smoke. A good many of them can cause mutations and failures on the cellular level, and that leads to the increased chance of cancers throughout the body. And if you smoke, don't wait to make a resolution for next New Year's Eve. Today is a great day to start. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives. Yes, it is Monday. Welcome to the March 24th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number. Call or text us at that number. Catch us on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and, of course, email me at richard@wcpt820.com. More stuff coming on Substack this week. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get the Choose Views short versions and the long versions. And most definitely, my wonderful colleagues, Joan Esposito, Live, Local, and Progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and all of our other great shows and interviews. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform because, why? There's lots of good stuff there. And it's Monday, guys. We're back. Weekend. Hope you guys had good weekends. I know that I did. Busy, very, very busy doing lots of different stuff. It's going to be that time of where the ground is just getting a little bit soft enough. And I'm kind of goofy here, about yard work and outdoor stuff. But that's right around the corner. It's going to be a little chilly today, but the week's going to gradually pick up. So I don't have any safety measures for anybody today other than it is a little windy, as Devin and I were talking about in terms of our respective drives in this morning. It's a little windy out there, so be careful. Don't be on your phone crossing the street and have the wind blow and you get startled and your reflexes aren't fast enough and your phone goes flying. You guys think I make this stuff up. I don't make this stuff. Devin's laughing because he knows Richard doesn't make this stuff up. And just be smart. Just don't do stupid stuff out there. Be careful. It's windy today. But the weather's going to be nice. Sun's going to come out this afternoon. So that's always good. And the rest of the week is looking pretty decent. It might rain this weekend or later in the week. So, but, there you go. Tomorrow should be pretty good and a little partly sunny and same on Wednesday. So we got to love it. Today is going to be, as always, a great busy Monday. And I'm excited to have with us this morning a local journalism treasure, and also one of the trustees at the National Hellenic Museum, Andrea Darlis, will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour, talking about some upcoming events at the National Hellenic Museum. And for those of you who don't understand what Hellenic culturally is, that's our Greek brothers and sisters, just FYI. All right, Sarah Jones, managing editor and publisher at Politicus USA. Politicus USA is a great information source. It's I'll let her talk about that work, but I follow Sarah and Jason Easley a lot, and they provide some really good content. So you guys will want to be here to check that out. Tomorrow we've got State Senator Christina Castro, author and Professor Dante King, who's been with us before. Our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 on Wednesday. Representative Edgar Gonzalez will be here to talk about the gambling bill. Dan Summons from the Blessings in a Backpack, Thursday. And Cliff Cash will be hanging out with us on Thursday morning as well. Cliff's got a lot to talk about. He's been all over. He did the recent D.C. March, which was great. He's got some other things coming up, and he'll be bringing us some comedy as well. Or at least his comedic quips Thursday morning. Friday, our good friend Karen Byrne will be with us, and it'll be a happy Friday for her. We'll talk about that more. And author and historian and great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells, Michelle Duster, will be with us on Friday. So looking forward to all of our guests, and thanks to them for riding with us. So there you go. That's what's happening. Let's keep it moving. Devin, let's make our way over to a couple of Choose Views news items this morning to kick off this Monday, January 24th, 2025. Here are ways, or at least thoughts about using your age to your advantage. Author and anti-ageism advocate Ashton Applewhite is on a mission to empower workers at all stages of their careers. the creator of Old School, an online education hub aimed at identifying and countering age bias, has recently joined LinkedIn News to discuss how to make your life experience and work in your favor, whether you're looking for a promotion or a career change. So check out, it's a really cool, it's a cool site. And for those who are in the workplace and are navigating that chronological change, it's something to look at. You can reach out to me. I'll give you more information on it. But I just thought that would be a good piece for you guys to kind of kick off this Monday morning with the rise, speaking of work, of the micro sabbatical for those stressed out Gen Z workers. Some of those have found a new burnout fix. A burnout fix. Micro retirements or short-term sabbaticals dedicated to pursuing personal passions. The trend, popularized on social media, encourages individuals to take extended breaks rather than waiting for retirement. The movement is gaining broader momentum and challenging some companies to reconsider their time-off policies. Gen Z now outnumbers baby boomers in the workforce. We knew it was coming. And employee burnout costs American businesses millions of dollars annually in lost productivity and turnover. And some of that's a management issue. We need better managers to do a better job of, working with the workforce. So some of the tech titans are getting tough on workers. What does that mean? There's a cultural shift underway with tech companies, according to Business Insider, as perks and pampering are replaced by a work ethic that emphasizes, quote, do more with less. And of course, one of those people that likes to be viewed as an efficiency expert is prompting businesses to cut benefits. Who would that be? Elon Musk. Enforce stricter work hours and raise performance expectations. Well, you're going to get some pushback on that, Elon. The battle to lead the artificial intelligence continues to grow as job security gives way to mass layoffs. Google, Amazon, and Meta are some of the tech titans that have embraced this no-nonsense approach. I bring this to you to let you know and to push back on the tech titans. Watch where you tread there, because your workforce is your most valuable item. It is not your product. Your workforce is. Government, check this one out, talking about what's happening across the pond. The government orders Heathrow fire inquiry. What does that mean? The devastating fire that shut down Britain's Heathrow Airport for nearly a day is now the focus of a government investigation into the country's energy resilience. While the airport says it's fully operational, over this past weekend, it also warned of significant disruptions over coming days. The fire, which stranded about 200,000 passengers and canceled more than 1,300 flights last Friday, is raising questions about the airport's resilience as a single power source. And of course, what an aging infrastructure, which many of our airports, not just here in the U.S., but throughout the world, have. Michigan nuclear plant eyes restarts. What's that mean? Michigan Palisades nuclear power plant. This is a big deal. Was shut down in 2022, if you remember. Could become the first U.S. reactor to restart operations after being decommissioned. Set to restart this fall, the plant faces major repairs, especially to its aging steam generators, which are essential for safety. Holtec International, which owns Palisades, is seeking approval for the necessary improvements from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. While the project has significant financial support, there are still concerns of safety in this particular project. And companies cut their design departments. That's one I didn't really like to hear, but I would report on it anyhow. Once corporate America's golden child, design departments have fallen out of favor. A recent analysis of Fortune 500 companies found 39% had slashed top design positions. So, how are companies dealing with this? How are they going to regain their luster? According to leaders in the space, designers need to speak the language of business. This means articulating their ROI, self-marketing to the C-suite, working cross-functionalities, integrating data, and even getting comfortable with spreadsheets. So there you go. Kind of a employment tilt this morning when it comes to Choose Views News, but we thought we'd bring you some things that would be important. Today, live, local, and progressive, Joan Esposito will be joined by Joe Garofoli, senior political writer at the San Francisco Chronicle, democracy expert Greta Betakovich of the Center for American Progress, and ACLU of Illinois Communications Director Ed Yonka. All this week, Joan will be talking to Skye Perryman, the president and CEO of Democracy Forward, and Professor John Murphy, Shai Feldman, and Marjorie Hershey. Tomorrow on this show, we'll be talking, as I said, with Christina Castro and DEI expert and author Dante King. Make sure you are grabbing your those final few tickets for our May 3rd anniversary broadcast, where Max and Benny's Restaurant, Deli, and Bakery up in Northbrook, Hal Sparks, Patty Vasquez, Joan Esposito, Scott Duff, and I will all be there broadcasting live from 11 until 3 p.m., 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. with special guests, of course. Learn more and how to get your tickets by visiting heartlandsignal.com/anniversary. Tickets are $20 each. Hurry, they're almost gone. This event is being sponsored by none other than Smart 265 and Southland Friends of Labor. So there you go, guys. What's happening in the world of Choose Views news, a little bit of what's happening with WCPT with our great anniversary coming up on May 3rd. Looking forward to you guys being a part of that. But for now, we'll take a quick break. Number 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Every 40 seconds, a child is reported missing. That's 2,000 children every single day. It's a heart-wrenching reality that we can no longer ignore. Find the Children is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping find missing kids. You can be a part of their mission by donating your unwanted vehicle, running or not. Call 1-800-775-5622. We guarantee that you will receive the maximum tax deduction. We provide fast, free pickup with 24-hour response. Call 1-800-775-5622. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help find missing children and educational materials to teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators. Our recovery programs have a proven track record of reuniting kids with their families. It's time to act. Donate your unwanted or unused car. Help us build a world where every child is safe. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-775-5622. Together, we can bring these kids home safely. This advertisement was paid for by Cars R Us and Find the Children.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So good weekend for everyone, I hope, and that you are off to a good start for this week. So a quick shout out to my man Craig in Ithaca, New York. Craig always sends me, and so many of you do, Jennifer D., the list goes on, George, so many wonderful bits of information that you guys share and contribute with me via email. And, the weekend gives me time to go through and filter through a lot of what you sent me, both many times it's other articles that you've read and other pieces that you've read or seen, and in many cases it's clips and videos. So thanks to everyone who sends things to me, and I try to work my way through them and find a way to integrate them into the show or certainly the overall conversation. But shout out to my man Craig in Ithaca, New York, who gets up and gets his day going, and as he says, I have 1 ear on work and 1 year on listening to the show. So thanks for your article that you sent me and the information from The Independent that you sent on anti-Semitism. So we'll be talking about that throughout the course of the week. So I'm going to throw this out to you guys. It's a little bit of a question of the day, maybe a question of the time right now. And what is that? The last 10 days or so, everybody's been talking about what our leadership looks like and how our leadership is performing or not, as it were. And we've seen a lot of people really kind of raise their hand and show their strength. And we've talked about that, and we will continue to talk about that, and how the Democrats need to fight differently, better, stronger, harder, longer, but just to get more results. And that even though the numbers are not there, that not fighting that's an excuse. It's not a reason. And those are different things. But that being said, there's so many things that I've read over the last week and a half. They many times, and we talked about it on the show, have come back to feelings about Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. And so I just want to put this out as a question to see if you really mean it when many of you have said that he needs to go as Senate Minority Leader. And I've said it. I think that his rationale for why he voted for the CR with the other 9 Democrats that did, his rationale is his rationale. He went on a couple of shows, and I think most notably he went on The View and talked about his reasoning. And I listened to his reasoning, and I understand his reasoning. I do. I actually listened to it a handful of times just to rethink like where he was coming from with the reasoning behind what could have happened or could happen with a shutdown of the government. So I understand where he's coming from just in terms of the political nature of it. I won't say I fully agree with him or not. That's not really the position that I need to take. But I will say this. I think that, and I said this last week, and I've been saying a version of this for a couple of weeks. What a lot of people don't like about where the Democratic Party is right now, and for those of you who want to get on my back end about this, I'm not throwing any kind of shade at the Democratic Party. I'm not. I'm encouraging. As I say, we have to be critical and complimentary in the same sentence, or we won't get anything done. The criticism that is constructive has an end, which is this is where we're going with this criticism. This is just going to make us stronger and better as a party, as a group of progressive liberal Democrats. You got to look at the outcome so you can say, what do we do to make it a little bit better? That doesn't mean you have wholesale changes necessarily. It does, I believe, mean you have to kind of look at it and go, So, in that space, I'm wanting to know, as I've said before, what are the Democrats going to do differently on really all levels? And what I believe is one of the missing pieces is that they have to get better at getting out in front of and letting us know, sort of early warning system kind of thinking, like this is what's coming. Or as I've said in terms of my process, here's what the Republicans are doing that's stinky. Here's how it's going to impact you. Here's what we're going to do about it, and here's how that's going to impact you. I believe that needs to be the first wordings out of any Democratic leader's mouth when they step to the microphone. And they need to do it en masse. And I talked about this last week in terms of, and we'll get into some of the things that were great things that happened with Bernie Sanders and AOC this weekend and others. We have some clips we want to play. But I really want to encourage Democratic leaders right now to be focused on telling the public, here's what they're doing that's stinky, if you didn't know already. But here's what's going on. Here's how it's going to affect you or harm you. Here's what we're going to do about it. Here's what's going to benefit the country. I believe that a version of that kind of messaging needs to be right out in front. And the reason that I've said that there needs to be a different messaging or leadership with messaging with the Senate is that if Chuck Schumer knew that this was the way he was going to vote and those other 10 felt the same way, we shouldn't have been surprised when it came out. There should have been a consensus presentation of that, because he caught heat largely because of the way in which it kind of just fell out there as much as the vote itself. But I believe that a lot of people would have been, okay, I get that. I don't agree with that. They still may have held their position, Devin. I don't agree with that. We don't give them the tool to beat us with. But I believe that at least if Schumer had handled it that way and come out, so now he's not looking like he's cleaning up all the doo-doo. He had come out and said, this is where we stand. Here's why I'm taking this position. I just believe a lot of people would have been a little bit more understanding. They wouldn't have necessarily agreed, but it would have come out better and differently. And it did show a disconnect in the Democratic Senate in that space. So the question is, based on that, and I would say lack of leadership in this moment on that subject, if there is going to be a change as Senate Minority Leader, who would you like it to be? I saw a number, and I followed a number of things this weekend in that space, and I felt like I want to ask you guys that question. I'd like to hear from you by phone or by email. By email and text. But text, of course, I'll be able to kind of read this morning. But give us a call if you have thoughts about if he should no longer be Senate Minority Leader, and if not, then who? Because I had a couple of discussions this weekend in that space, and I thought it would be a worthwhile question to ask you guys. If so, then who? Should it be? Could it be? So let me know what you guys think in that space, and we can talk about it. I'd really love to hear what you have to say. All right. Over at our HeartlandSignal.com website and our Heartland Signal on X, we, as always, have some great stuff for you guys to grab and share with people and, be more plugged into some things that I think are going to, make you smile in some cases and, make you just want to throw something at the screen in terms of what these crazy Republicans are doing. But our own Lauren Underwood was pretty spot on an interview that she had in terms of putting pressure on congressional leaders and making sure that the Democrats speak out and that the Democrats are heard, and how also we can go about pulling some Republicans, because it's so close in terms of the House. This is why those races are important in New York and down in Florida. But Representative Lauren Underwood had something to say about how close we are and what we need to do to get certain things done. So Devin and I've got a clip put together that was from our Heartland Signal that you guys should make your way over and check out, but we'll play it for you now.
So the situation in the House is this. We have 215 Democrats. We need 218 people, members of Congress, to support any bill for it to pass out of the House. That's why we're saying we just need 3. So if we can find 3 House Republicans that are willing to stand with us, we are able to literally block through legislation these actions that Donald Trump is taking to slash Social Security from America's seniors. We are able to protect the Department of Education and prevent this attack on our children that Donald Trump has unleashed yesterday. We are able to literally stand in that gap. And so what we're asking families across Illinois to do is to stand with us and to reach out to Republican representatives.
Do you think it's possible, Congresswoman, I mean, with, so many members of the Republican Party very loyal to the current president, right, do you think it's even possible to get 3 Republican elected officials to actually vote with the Democrats?
Absolutely. You know how I know? Because I know that my colleagues have disabled children or children with learning disabilities who count on having that teaching aid in the classroom with them in order to stay on grade level and to be able to learn and interact with their peers. Mm-hmm. I know that my colleagues have parents who rely on Social Security. I know that my colleagues are just like every other American. And when they hear about the impact of their votes and these proposals, those colleagues will respond to the pressure. However, if we're just counting on a collegial across the aisle conversation member to member, that's not necessarily what'll get it done in this moment. Yeah. But that public outreach, that public pressure is what will move these vulnerable Republicans.
That is I haven't heard anybody else. Maybe I missed it, Devin. I haven't heard anybody else say it that plain. It's 215 to 218. We get 3. I've been saying we don't need a ton. We get 3, we get to move the needle on voting on different bills. So the strategy should be from Representative and Minority Leader Jeffries is to go not just get 3, get 6, get 9, where they have districts. Listen, let me back up and say this a little bit differently, because we have to go to a break. I'm going to say this quickly and then come back and talk about it and grab some of your calls. We have to fight differently. And the Democratic leadership has got to embrace that. They've got to fight differently. They've got to. How many times have I said over the last couple of months, frankly, we need to go into their backyard and grab some of their cookies and candy. She said it, this collegial across the aisle, my colleague. Nah, that stuff is over with. The Democratic leadership should be encouraging their caucuses to go into the backyards of other representatives and senators and grab those constituents that need where we need to go and remind those constituents that you voted for something other than this. And we're here to deliver. Kind of like Eric Swalwell did this weekend. Great clip. I couldn't get it together fast enough, and maybe we'll have it for tomorrow. But, he's being a baller. And, Representative Underwood, she has the same mindset. We flip a couple of districts on votes because of what their constituents want. We start to make some things happen. So let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new CareWatch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The CareWatch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. The CareWatch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. Call us to get your CareWatch right now.
800-741-5819. 800-741-5819. 800-741-5819. That's 800-741-5819.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, breezy conditions, some lingering clouds to start, then gradually clearing into the afternoon with highs in the upper 40s. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 33. For Tuesday, a slight chance for some light snow showers in the morning, then turning partly sunny into the afternoon with upper 40s for highs. Wednesday, more in the way of sunshine making a return, a high of 51. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 36.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
All right, progressives, welcome back. 773-763-9278. Catch us on all the socials. You want to check us out when you can, if you can't listen live. Plus, one of the fastest places, best places to go is to the Heartland Signal website and my homepage and click on my nose or my ear. And then you can get stuff. I made Devin laugh. Yeah, I've said this so many times. I love it when I make Devin laugh because he is like Mr. Straight-Laced Humor over there. So anyhow. All right. So a couple of comments already. One of the choices would be Senator Chris Murphy as a replacement in terms of Senate Minority Leader. Another comment regarding Chuck Schumer. And let me make this clear. I'm not piling on with regard to Chuck Schumer. I'm asking a question because I know it's a concern that a lot of people have, millions of folks throughout the country have, and folks who listen to this show and other parts of our different broadcasts. I know it's a real concern. This is not piling on. This is about being effective, and sometimes we make the change so that we're more effective. We all have to do that. So that's why I wanted to ask the question. One of the statements I received, good morning, Richard. Even before the vote, Schumer was not an effective speaker. He would just drone on and on with his speech. Boring. I don't think I don't think that's too far off. A lot of people are feeling that way. Has he been effective as a leader? That's the question that we have to ask and then come up with an answer for it. But there you go. We'll get to a couple clips in a moment about Dems going into other districts and doing the work. We've been talking about it. I said I darn near begged U.S. Representative Nikki Brzezinski week before last, please, please, please let your colleagues know on our side of the aisle that it's time for us to go and rattle the cages of the Republicans who are afraid to go to town halls in their districts, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But let's grab a couple of quick calls, Devin. Let's go to Troy in Kenosha. Good morning, Troy, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hello, how you doing, Mr. Richard?
I'm good. What's going on?
Say, Mr. Richard, did Elon Musk and Donald Trump got rid of a lot of those vets?
I can't quite hear you. You're a little muffled there.
Did he fire? And he got rid of a lot of those vets and stuff were working.
Troy, I'm having a tough time hearing you, man. Let's try this again. All right, let's go to Earl in Hyde Park. Can't hear him well. Earl, good morning. Welcome to Choose Views.
Thank you for taking my call. Good morning, Richard. You know I don't have any respect for you or Devin, so I mean, that's...
Get it out of your system this morning. We know you probably had a terrible night's sleep last night, so you got to blame somebody else and then go after me and Devin.
Yeah, you guys are no doggone good, man. If I had my way, I'd have you out on the roof and doing the program out in the cold, man. That's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, that's what I heard. What's going on, Earl?
Well, okay, yeah. What I'm going to say is, first of all, who would want to run to be the leader of the Senate, and that would also help formulate who the choices should be, because you got to want the job in order to do a good job. Another thing would be is I do like Chris Murphy. I think out of his positions, he states it in such a way that I think it would appeal to more white folks. We do need the white vote. Black folks can't elect the president. So we do need a combination of white, black, and Latino. I'm not leaving the Asians out. I want a more inclusive. I'm just including everybody, So we need to bring a coalition together to defeat the Republican Party. And I think the biggest problem that we have is we don't have enough guns. I think the Republican Party with Donald Trump just sucks all the air out of the airways. I mean, he just walks on stage and he gets like 2 hours of coverage of him just walking on the stage because he's so flamboyant. And that's all free press.
Yeah, I heard something. Something was said to me last week that the reason that I've said this for weeks now, since the election certainly, is that the Dems right now have to start the work of fighting. They can't wait until a year before the midterms, which would be this coming, October, November. That's the fight had to start the day after the election. And some of the Democratic elected officials already knew that. So the point I'm making about this in Trump and the media is that it was said to me, and actually I think it was Henry that said this to me, is that the Dems need to start working and campaigning right now. Trump never stopped campaigning, even when he lost. Because he knew he had to deal with keeping himself out of jail. But he started campaigning literally the days and the weeks following the 2020 election. How that translates to the media is that there's a story there. So I've said this so many times, the Dems need to create the story. They need to create the message. They need to make the noise. If they build it, people will come. They can't wait. They have to start now. And that messaging has to be, to your point, Earl, all-inclusive of people that are going to want to get involved right now rather than a year from now when they're going, here they come again. It has to start right now. I'm hoping that they're getting the message. My fingers are crossed that, we're doing our part to remind them and speak to the people that we need to speak to. So I hear you. And Chris Murphy would be a good choice. That's a name that's come in a few times already this morning. So, Earl, thank you, my man. Appreciate your call.
All right, buddy. You take care. Have a good day now.
You too. Be safe. All right, bye now.
Bye. Bye-bye.
All right, so Earl's in the box for Chris Murphy. We have a couple people that have texted me Chris Murphy. And I think it's probably because he's been the most vocal and out there senator in recent weeks. And it speaks to the fact that folks want that. They want someone that's going to be out there now rather than waiting until a year from now. And I said that this is that if there's ever been a time where the midterms are not the normal start time, it starts now. And it's not just the midterms, it's these other elections. And this is why the New York the New York seat is so important, as are the two in Florida, 1 and 6, and New York is 23 in terms of districts. That's why these are so important. Going back to what Representative Lauren Underwood said, those are 3 seats that if we were to, by the grace of whomever, to win those seats, do you guys realize what that will do to where we are in the country right now? That's why I don't want to hear someone say, well, those are tough districts. We aren't going to win down there. You don't know that. There's people who are going, and again, I come back to 2 elements. There's 2 parts to this. Our elected officials have got to go into these districts. They have to keep doing that. That election and those April 1st elections are right around the corner. And maybe the start was a little bit late. Maybe it wasn't. I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is this. If we were to pick off one of those seats, that's a game changer. We pick off 2 or 3, that's a nation changer. Because then we control the House. And if we control the House at this time, the Senate's got to be ready to deal with carrying their buckets of water the right way. And that's why I say that the leadership change would not be a bad thing. But let's stay on the House. If we don't win all 3 of those seats, but we get 1, look at how much closer we are. And to Representative Lauren Underwood's statement, getting some Republicans in districts where there's concerns that are deeper than in other more red districts, maybe some of those purple districts, to then vote in the direction that we need them to vote for the preservation of the country, becomes a hell of a lot easier. So don't say that it's a tough district. We know that it's a tough district, but that's what the fight is all about. At least it should be. So I'm with what Earl is saying in terms of we want to be more inclusive. That's always the conversation that comes from us. And at this particular moment, we have to have leaders who are going to recognize that and be willing to do what we've been talking about, which is to go into red districts and make some noise. That's just there's no alternative to that. There's no other way around that. Let's see if we can grab another call or 2 before we go to this break. Let's go to Dave here in Illinois. Dave, good morning. Welcome to Choose Views. Dave, are you there?
Hello?
I can barely hear you. A little bit of echo in the background.
Okay, hold on.
We're gonna put you on hold while you figure it out, and we'll come back to you. Let's go to Andy in Rockford. Good morning, Andy. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Mr. Chu. I was reading an article that was from the Washington Post because I wanted to do a little exploration. In 2021, Donald Trump spent $519 million of taxpayer money fighting and lying about his loss. That was taxpayer money. How many billions of dollars did the media spend on airtime airing his big lie, on top of the $519 million of taxpayer footage for his big lie? And Kamala spent nothing, not a dime, nothing. She spent not a dime of taxpayer money disputing this last election. But I'm sitting here driving up and down, coming from Joliet every morning to Bedford Park on the Stevenson. I stand with Malcolm Nance in a big, big way. We've got to bring the attention to the fight. I can drive to Stevenson this time of morning, making a trip from Joliet to Bedford Park, and everything is just absolutely fine, unless there's a car on the shoulder with a flat tire, unless there's a law enforcement officer with somebody pulled over, and big time if there's any kind of fender bender. and then everybody stops and wants to see the blood. We did not have Selma because we stayed quiet like a bunch of hummingbirds. We did not have Kent State, and they're both atrocities, I admit. But nobody noticed. Nobody would have noticed the end of Vietnam War had it not been for Fort Dead in Ohio. It's just, it's got to be more than talk. All we do is talk.
Andy, it's interesting. You said you use the analogy of, people watch it. Well, people will watch an accident, or they see the tragedy. And we got to hit this break, Andy. And thank you for your observation. But yeah, we have to make the noise. We have to make the noise with an outcome in mind, an outcome that we're going to get delivered. We're going to deliver on. And I hear what you're saying in that space. People will slow down, unfortunately, for the accident or the pulled over car or the other awful tragedies that happen. The civil rights movement did not take any. It shouldn't say it didn't. The civil rights movement became a national issue when cameras showed the northern cities and the western cities how folks in the South were being treated. It was at that point that when the media started to cover that readily, and you saw grandmothers and grandbabies getting water hosed for just trying to live their lives, that candidly the northern whites, Northeast, Central, Midwest, and the Western whites said, that's not the country that we are supposed to be living in. So, Andy, you make a great point there, and I thank you. Be careful driving today and be safe on the road. Thanks for your support and contribution, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Question: where were you on May 3rd, 2005? If you were listening to the radio, you may have heard the first day on the air for WCPT. On Saturday, May 3rd, WCPT is celebrating 20 years on the air with a big live broadcast from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll be at Max and Benny's restaurant in Northbrook, and WCPT listeners can attend this special 4-hour broadcast. Al Sparks will kick off the celebration with the WCPT broadcast team. Richard Chu, Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and Scott Duff, as well as surprise guests from our 20-year history. It's the WCPT 20th anniversary, and you're invited to come and celebrate with us. To register for this special event, go to WCPT.com and click on the WCPT anniversary banner. Seating is limited and will sell out quickly. Go to WCPT.com today to register. See you on Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Max and Benny's in Northbrook.
So spread the word that WCPT is just great.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. I appreciate what Andy had to say, and again, Andy, stay safe on the road. But he's right about fighting with an intent to get some stuff done, and not just the talk. And one of the things that I am saying and have said, what is it that they're doing? How is this impacting you? Here's what we're going to do, and here's what it's going to do for you. That's a message, or part of a message, that the Dems need to have. And I received a text, and I just want to say that one of the things that is happening in terms of the media, and Earl touched on this a little bit, and so did Andy, about it being known. This came from 313. The problem is the cameras aren't showing the current protests in this country or abroad. And in terms of regularly, normally showing them, that I would agree with that. Every now and again, there'll be, there was a protest in so-and-so and such a place. But not showing the huge amount. And this is the thing that I find interesting. The clips of Republicans having terrible, terrible times in their districts, the mainstream media is not showing that as part of their regular broadcast. You get it every now and again. And the other part of that is the Dems that are going into these districts. You're not really hearing a lot about that. MSN is doing their part, but CNN and certainly Fox and the regular, to be honest with you, some of the evening shows, some of the regular non-cable broadcasts are not showing it. So ABC, NBC, and CBS are not really talking about these protests, and not really talking about the big outings. And we're going to get to a clip in a second before we get to the top of the hour because we have our guests at 7 and 7:30. But I do want you guys to hear this one clip that Devin and I put together. But let's grab a couple of quick calls first. Let's go to Dave here in Illinois. Dave, hopefully we can hear you a little bit better this time. David, are you there? I don't know what's going on, David. We're having a tough time hearing you. Maybe you send me a text of what you're thinking because we've got to move on a little bit today. So thank you, David. I apologize for that. We can't really hear you this morning. So try texting me at 773-763-9278, and I'll read your text as best I can on the air. Let's go to Pam on the west side. Hey, Pam, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. I'm going to push back.
Okay.
Because I hear you in saying that, what the Democratic Party needs to do, some of the strategy. Richard, I just ask basic questions. How are you going to win over those people in the Democratic Party, a majority white, who voted for Trump, who is a sexual abuser, and they know all that is about him? Now, to the representative, I'm sorry, Lauren, what's her last name again?
Underwood. Lauren Underwood.
Underwood, okay. I appreciate her sentiments. Here's where I am, Richard. You want to go out and scour the earth for the Democratic voters who didn't want to vote for Harris and Walz. I'm asking you, you have 3.6 million people, predominantly Democratic voters, if not all Democratic voters, Asian, Black, Latino. And the evidence that Greg Palast put together, bears that out. They were purposely denied the right to vote. I haven't heard her or many other of our elected officials say anything about that. It's almost as if they want to pretend that it didn't happen. In Florida, let's specifically go to Florida. You know, Richard, that in Florida, those who have completed their sentencing, former felons, cannot vote, because the Republican Party made sure that they denied any legislation that would permit them to vote. So that's going to be difficult. So I'm saying this. I'm worried about the people who were purged from the rolls and will continue to be, because nothing is being said by Democratic leadership. Nothing is being done by the research and the evidence that Greg Palast has. So Harris tried to reach out to the Republican Party. I didn't agree with that, but she made that valiant effort.
Yeah.
And look what happened, Richard. So I don't know what message is going to get across to the white, because we're really talking white, black, and other. What message is going to get across to the Democratic white voter? I mean, let's just be real about what we need to ask.
So
because I don't know.
There's three things I want to quickly unpack. Take the time to unpack. First,
I appreciate it.
No. So let's get into it. The first one is voter suppression. Voter suppression is a real thing, whether it be done by legislative measures, as it relates to how Florida said that convicted felons can't vote, and they stalled that in the Florida state legislature. That's a fact. You're right about that. That's happened. Versions of that have happened in other states, and Greg Palast, through his work Vigilante, talks about that in great measure. So I am not, my head is not in the clouds or in the sand on that topic, without a doubt. I'm with you there, Pam, and so many other people. I think Andy was alluding to this, and he didn't say it, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. But I think he was also saying what the hell happened in terms of, did something go on with this election that was hinky? Now, Greg doesn't think that there was. He thinks it was just voter suppression. Andy was alluding to it loosely, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think we know that voter suppression is taking place. Part of my brain says something doesn't make sense about the numbers. Then to Andy's point, and then you bringing this all together. Pam, I'm with you. My head is not in the clouds on this. So let me be clear. I am not saying that right now that the Democratic Party should be reaching out to try to get more Democrats who are white that voted for Trump. We got folks right here in Illinois, locally, that have been lifelong, they say, lifelong Democrats, but because there wasn't a primary, that they were upset and they were Bernie bros and they voted for Trump. White men that are union members did that. We know that. We've got representatives that have stated that that's about a part of their constituency that did that. So I don't know how to fix that, because that's something inside of that person that says, if it's not a white male, even though I'm a Democrat, I'm not voting for that person. I don't know how to fix that. That's their own ism that they've got to deal with in their own way because they voted to hurt themselves. So I don't know how to fix that, but I do know to talk about it. And I do know to call it out. When I hear someone that's white, male or female, that says something along the lines, Pam, that, well, she just didn't quite talk to me the right amount of times and the right way, and I just couldn't quite understand what she was saying, and I just didn't, I felt like she wasn't talking to the white middle class, the vaunted white middle class suburban voter. I want to stick up my middle finger at them, because that tells me that their real reason was racism and sexism. And when I hear that, believe me, Pam, as a black man in America, that's code for I can't vote for the black woman or a woman. I have to vote for the white guy, because that's how I've been trained and that's how I've been raised. So I'm not plugged into that, Pam. But I'm also not saying that we need to go after those voters. When I talk about going after voters, I'm talking about the 69 million that didn't vote at all, irrespective of their community. And that's why I want the Democratic message to change and to show fight, because a lot of what I've read and the material that I've received, Pam, from credible people have said, I didn't vote because I don't feel like the Democrats are fighting hard enough, irrespective of gender, culture, community. That's a statement that's out there. So I want to go after those people far quicker than I want to go after the Democratic, the so-called, I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I voted for the white dude that's got 34-time convicted felon. So I want all of our listeners across the country to be clear on that, and let me be perfectly clear. That's who I think we have to target, and I think it makes sense for our elected officials currently to go into those districts and get those people who haven't voted and those that did, Pam, to make the decision that they've got to make a change.
Well, all I'm asking, Richard, is that they protect and they speak out on the base of voters that came out and tried to put you all in office. Now, as for your statement, those who kind of stood on the fence, didn't vote, and they said they wanted the Democratic Party to fight harder. I need to know this, Richard. I need to know first and foremost that is the truth. That is why you didn't vote Democratic. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. Give me some tangible things you need to hear the Democratic Party say and do.
Right.
Because if it wasn't enough for them to say that, to warn you about your Social Security, your all of your other safety nets would be, taken from you, then, I'm not sure. If it wasn't enough just to say we can't have this iteration of the Republican Party.
Listen, Pam, I have to be, when I talk about my 84-inch arm wingspan, all of that has to be included in this conversation. But at the end of the day, it should have been, and let me be clear to everybody coming from my mouth, it should have been enough for this country. And you got me riled up, Pam. It should have been enough for this country to say, I can't vote for that. I don't need something to vote for. A lot of times I need something to vote for. Well, maybe vote for safety and protection and not that. And that was that's the orange menace. Get up off the couch and vote against. Yes, this time you can vote against something. You can vote against that tragedy. And not enough people had in them to do that. And many of those who did vote, and I'm calling out my Caucasian, African-American, Asian, whatever community at large for not having the courage and the guts and release your racism and sexism to vote against what Donald Trump represents. So
let me be clear, Richard, because I don't want people to come on after me and making. So I'm asking if the outreach is to the voters who didn't vote, all of them across the board, no matter race. Then what do they want to hear? What do they want to see from the Democratic Party?
Pam,
get their vote.
Pam, hold your thought. We have to hit this break, and when we come back, we'll take your call right out of the break. Hold on, Pam. We'll be right back. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. When Serena Williams won her title at the Tennis Grand Slam tournament, we know she gets the same prize money as her male counterpart. However, prior to 1973, that wasn't always the case. When Billie Jean King captured her first Wimbledon title in 1966, she was surprised to find out that the winner of the men's tournament received £2,000, while she only received £750. After being unable to find any tournaments for women, King and 8 other women formed their own tournament, the Virginia Slims Invitational, where each woman was paid $1 before posing for the famous picture of them each holding up their dollar, with the caption, "Contract Pros." While the move was bold, the pay discrepancies continued. King threatened to boycott the 1973 U.S. Open unless the women were paid the same as the men. Thanks to a grant from Band Deodorant, both the men and women's singles would take home $25,000. Despite the progress at the U.S. Open, it wouldn't be until 1984 that the Australian Open would execute equal pay, followed by the French Open in 2006, and finally Wimbledon in 2007. This has been a WCPT moment in labor. We're fighting for your rights.
Imagine all the things you dream of under one roof. You're thinking of eBay. Fashion, collectibles, car parts, it's all there. Go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay. Things people love.
AP News. Good morning, I'm Ed Donahue. Local hospitals say at least 25 people were killed in Israeli strikes in Gaza.
The relatives of those killed in Israeli bombardment gathered at the hospitals, including 9-year-old Noran Al-Safi. I want my father, she cries. Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis received some of the bodies killed in the attacks, but the largest hospital in southern Gaza was targeted itself. An Israeli strike caused a large fire in the hospital's surgical building, killing at least one person. Israel's military confirmed the strike on the hospital, saying it hit a Hamas militant who was operating there. The renewed assault comes nearly a week after Israel ended its ceasefire with Hamas with a surprise bombardment that killed hundreds. Israel says it won't stop its offensive until Hamas releases all its hostages and is no longer a threat to Israel. I'm Nayan Kim.
American negotiators are working to hammer out details of a proposed partial ceasefire in Ukraine. Wildfires forced mandatory evacuation orders in parts of North Carolina and New Jersey. The areas in North Carolina are still recovering from Hurricane Helene. Kim Calloway had planned ahead.
We've already actually evacuated everything that we felt that was important, and now we're just staying at the house and trying to do what we can to get our house prepared if the firemen need to show up and hold the line.
In South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster declared a state of emergency. A workers' union says Turkish authorities detained several journalists from their homes in what is said to be a crackdown amid escalating protests triggered by the imprisonment of the mayor of Istanbul and a top rival to President Erdogan. More than 1,000 people have been detained over the last week. Police in Paris say 7 fans who made Nazi salutes during a Nations League soccer match between France and Croatia have been taken into custody. This is AP News. Conan O'Brien accepted the Mark Twain Prize for Humor at Washington's Kennedy Center. Less than a month ago, President Trump upended the Kennedy Center by ousting its management, which Will Ferrell just couldn't pass up.
Do you know what I'm supposed to be doing right now? Do you have any idea? I'm supposed to be shutting down the Department of Education, okay?
Conan O'Brien pointed out Mark Twain's words mean a lot at this moment in American history.
Twain wrote, "Patriotism is supporting your country all of the time, and your government when it deserves it."
O'Brien said Twain hated bullies and deeply empathized with the weak, adding, "This is all about comedy."
Comedy that is self-critical, deflating, and dedicated to the proposition that we are all flawed, absurd, and wallowing in the mud together.
Audio from Netflix. Conan O'Brien was chosen to replace David Letterman as host of TV's Late Night in 1993. Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, breezy conditions, some lingering clouds to start, then gradually clearing into the afternoon with highs in the upper 40s. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 33. For Tuesday, a slight chance for some light snow showers in the morning, then turning partly sunny into the afternoon with upper 40s for highs. Wednesday, more in the way of sunshine making a return, a high of 51. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 36.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. Give your walls a fresh, updated look with Pittsburgh Ultra Interior Paint. It's a paint and primer in one that provides a durable, washable finish. Choose from thousands of color options to customize your living space. View our entire selection of paint products today on Menards.com. Plus, check out the weekly flyer for plenty more great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Progressives, welcome back. It's the second hour of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. I know you guys are on hold, and I asked you just to hang in there with us. We have a guest this morning that I want to make sure that we do right by her for being with us. And so Pam, sit tight. Leo, Mary Beth, and others, just sit tight. We'll get back to you as we wrap up our segment with our guest this morning, who is I could say, Chicago legend. 3 decades of time in the media here in Chicago, and going, whether it be reporting or as an anchor, and now senior director of constituent engagement. So good morning and welcome to the show, Andrea Darless, also trustee at the National Hellenic Museum here in Chicago. Welcome to the show.
Richard, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be with you. I'm such a fan, and I'm thrilled to be on your show this morning.
Thank you. So I have to ask you this question. Well, let me back up. I'm not going to ask this question. I threw out a little bit of fun earlier this morning when I announced that you were going to be on the show with us. And I said, for those of you who don't know what Hellenic means, I said, that's for our Greek brothers and sisters that are, of Greek origin. So, so I had to have a little fun with that. So,
I love it.
Andrea, thanks for being with us this morning. You've been doing this for a minute, so you know your way around a microphone, you know your way around a camera. But right now, you've got this really great project that you're working on as trustee with the National Hellenic Museum, and that's the trial of Themistocles.
You know what? And I'm telling you've said the name perfectly, Richard. So we have this mock trial going on. So let me back up, and I'll give your guests real quick the 101 of Hellenism. So Hellas means Greece. It's in Greek. Hellas means Greeks. So that's why it's the National Hellenic Museum. So every time you see the word Hellenic, that has to do with Greek history, Greece itself. We are putting on behalf of the National Hellenic Museum, which, by the way, is located right in Chicago, right in the heart of Greektown at Halsted and Van Buren. It's a gorgeous building. Yeah. We welcome everybody to come take a look at our awesome museum. And we are putting on a mock trial, and we do this every year. It's one of our biggest fundraisers, and we have students from UIC. We have students from all over. We have lawyers. We have just anyone who's ever seen a law show like Law and Order or Matlock. I'm totally dating myself there, Richard.
Love Matlock.
But anytime you've ever seen LA Law, anytime you've ever seen a law show, we put that on with some of the biggest names in Chicago history, or in Chicago present day. So we have lawyers, we have judges, we have a celebrity jury, which I'm already putting in my ask for you to sit on with us for next year.
I'm in.
But excellent. And it's so much fun, and we take a character from Greek history. In the past, we've put Socrates on trial or Pericles, and one year with Helen of Troy. So we take a significant person from our history or mythology and put them on trial modern day. And it's so much fun to watch. It's like you're watching like a Broadway show or a performance. And this year we're doing it at the Harris Theater on April 1st, and we're putting on trial a very famous naval general from Greece. His name is Themistocles, and he is the one we're putting on trial this year.
Wow. That's going to be.
It's really cool.
That's going to be cool. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I did slide it in and said yes, I'm in for next year.
Okay, good.
This is
you're in.
You can ask me to be involved in anything you're working on in these weeks and months to come, because in this crazy time that we're in, and that's been described maybe more a little bit saltier. But this crazy time that we are in right now, this is a good bit of, I won't call it humor, but theatrics that allows this type of participation. So I'm excited about it. Next Tuesday, April 1st, 7 p.m. at the Harris Theater. You guys make your way over there. But Andrea, take a moment. I think to give you your due, just take a moment and let folks know a little bit about your background and your history in journalism here in Chicago.
Well, I graduated from the University of Illinois. I know, very tough game that we had last night. Mm-hmm. But I graduated from the U of I, and I was a radio news anchor in Joliet and in Champaign for a couple of years. And then I went on to WGN in Chicago for 22 years. I was there at WGN Radio and WGN TV for about 12. And I still fill in on WGN television. They have two shows called Daytime Chicago with our girl Tanya and Amy Rutledge. Yep. And then they have an afternoon show with Sarah Jindra and Ji-Suk Yi. And that is at 1 p.m. It's called Spotlight Chicago. So I still fill in on those shows on occasion. But my day job is working for the University of Illinois, and I have that fancy title, Senior Director for Constituent Engagement, but that means it's media relations. So anytime you're looking for an expert or a guest, someone to speak to something from the university, that's what I do during that. Like I said, that's my day job, which is wonderful. I love doing it, and I love working for the U of I.
So what's the climate right now? I mean, last week we had on someone that you may know of, and if you don't, you should definitely check out. And her name is Dr. Roseanne Chick-Kanfora. And who she is, if you don't know, is she's a professor at Kent State. And she was literally on the yard and had bullets flying by her head when 4 students were killed in 1970. Yeah, and she spoke to student involvement on campuses right now is critically important, and student voices need to be heard. It's critically important to the dialogue that we must have. And I had a caller that was on right before you that's still on hold that talked about what is it that we've got to do to get things done. We had another gentleman that called in earlier about what do we do? Stop talking, let's get stuff done. So I'm not taking you down a political alley, partisan one way or the other, but on a campus, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing from students on your campus?
Well, so here's where I would probably part from that statement is that I'm based in Chicago, so I work for the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, but I'm in Chicago, and my role is more of a media relations expert. So I'm not going to speak to what the university is doing. We comply with all of our federal, state, and local guidelines with respect to that. But, if I could bring us back to the museum, here's what I would say is that we are an all-inclusive museum. In fact, so many of our exhibits focus on not just Greek history and Greek culture and Greek customs, but what we do is we're very all-inclusive. And in fact, we had an exhibit going on right now. It wasn't really a political exhibit. It was all of Diane Alexander White's photographs, and she had photographed every parade from the 70s forward, including St. Patrick's Day Parade, the Bud Billiken Parade, and she blew up all these images, and she has them currently in the museum, And it's kind of like this quest for Chicagoans to find people that they know or that they knew. So people would come in and say, wait, that's my great nephew at the Bud Billiken Parade. That is my, grandson at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And all these images were so cool. So we really have this all-inclusive spirit, and every exhibit that we put on has to do with Chicago and Chicagoans in all of the neighborhoods. We just happen to be located in Greektown.
Well, that's what's beauty. That's one of the things that's beautiful about our city and our community is all the different neighborhoods. A good example, this past weekend, the Shamrock Shuffle and St. Patrick's Day celebration, there are people who have probably very little Irish in their ancestry, but because of the inclusiveness of the events that we have in Chicago, everybody from so many different communities was participating, which I love to see. And you speak to that very well with regard to the museum. So talk about a little bit more about because I remember when the museum was first built, and of course Chicago is 2 seasons, winter and construction season, whether it be on an expressway or in the neighborhood. But talk a little bit about what brought the museum to fruition and what it's represented these last number of years.
So that's a great question. So as I said, the museum's it's an anchor of our historic Greektown neighborhood. And the mission initially is to share Greek history and art and culture and our Greek American story in a relevant and engaging ways. But how we do this is we produce these thought-provoking exhibitions and events and programs that connect people against all generations and all cultures. So while the museum was born from this passion to share Greek heritage, what we did is find that the universal ideas and values that kind of bind us all together are really there. And we always strive to make these connections between the past and the present and Greece and America, and not just the Greek legacy, but the whole world. So this is why this trial series is so unique and so cool. It really demonstrates kind of to the theme of not what you're just talking about today, Richard, but every day what your show demonstrates how our past really remains relevant today. So in this trial, you're going to see not only the prosecution arguing against and the defense arguing for Themistocles, their client, and I'm kind of using the air quotes right now, but it's going to show you're going to see so many of these themes resonating today, in present day. Like, did he betray Athens and go basically to work for another country? Was he a traitor? Was he a hero? You get to decide, and that's what the coolest thing is. If you attend this, there's going to be 3 votes. The judges, the jury on stage, the celebrity jury, which you're going to be a part of next year, and the audience. So everybody gets to weigh in, and there's 3 different votes, and the audience votes is the official vote of whether Themistocles is guilty or innocent. And I'm so excited. Our presiding judge this year, by the way, is Justice Joy Cunningham from the Illinois Supreme Court.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to make a statement and then come back and ask you a question.
Yeah.
Statement. Okay. The audience, and this is in my brain, and you just answered. Audience participation. Okay. So this weekend, my wife and I had a chance to go to the Studebaker Theater to see a great performance of the legendary pianist and composer Bob James. And for those of you who don't know who Bob James, if you want a touch point, he's the guy that wrote the theme to the TV show Taxi. Okay. And then saxophonist Dave Koz. So during the show, they kind of took a little bit of a change of what might be the norm of concerts, live concerts, and they stopped performing and started asking the audience questions live about whatever was on their mind musically or whatever else. And it was just really great and fascinating and inclusive to this great concert that we got to see in this wonderful theater. And so that's what I was going to ask you. Is there going to be, I guess you just answered it, audience participation, and why is that important to the process in this trial?
I love the question. And first of all, the short answer is absolutely. There is immense audience participation in this particular event that we have, the mock trial series. And I think it's so important because, like you just said, Richard, you go to a performance, you go to a show, and it's cool to watch. I mean, I love going to see theater downtown and at our beautiful theaters all throughout the city of Chicago and the burbs, too.
Yes.
But there's something that's really cool about being involved with the process. So not only are you an observer, but you become a participant, and that's why I think it's really important for every member of the audience. Once they check in, they get a little token: a blue for guilty, a white for not guilty. So they put the colors of Greece, blue and white.
Right.
So that's the significance of that. So at the very end, so the justice and the rest of the bench, they will take a 15-minute intermission. It's just a nonstop performance for about an hour and a half, and then we take a little bit of a break, and then we come back, and the justices will give their verdict. The celebrity jury, they each get to stand and say guilty or not guilty and why they voted that way. And then the audience, we collect all the chips, and we have this big reveal with a kind of a life-size scale of justice. And as we pour the chips out, you can kind of hear the gasps from the audience. But I think it not only keeps people interested, but it really goes back to that initial vote in Athens, Greece, saying, you know what, I get a say in our democracy. I get a say.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, especially, to your point earlier about right now with voting. Every vote does count, especially in the case like this when you have a smaller auditorium and you have, 300 to 500 people casting, that every single vote counts. We've had trials where the scales are just about balanced, and that really shows that it did come down to that last one or two chips.
Yep, it does. And that's the profoundness of that statement. Our audience needs to hear, and people need to hear across the country. Every vote matters, and every vote counts. So, couple of things. One, I'm going to do my darndest to be there next Tuesday, April 1st, 7 p.m. at the Harris Theater. I'll say it again for those who are listening. Tuesday, April 1st, 7 p.m. at the Harris Theater here in Chicago. If you can make your way there, it will probably be a great time for you for that particular evening. Andrea, Greek history is more than just about mythology. And the classic words, Greek mythology. Greek history is important to the world. And take a couple of minutes and explain in your personal experience, but also your life experience, why that's so important to our society. Greek history.
It really is, because we are a nation of immigrants, and one of our coolest exhibits is on the third floor of our building, which, by the way, please come check it out. All your listeners, come on in, look, you'll be blown away. It's a beautiful museum. But on our third floor, we have the immigrant experience. Like, my grandparents came over from Greece, and it's kind of what all of our ancestors and forefathers experienced as they were coming over from different countries. So it shows the immigrant experience, and some of, most, if not all, came to the United States with the clothes on their back and maybe a couple of dollars in their pocket, and they had to create this life for themselves and for their families. So all of our exhibits show that. And again, so all-inclusive, just showing how democracy started in Greece and voting and everything, the Olympics, so something can always be tied back to Greece and Greek history. So I always say there's a little Greek in all of us. There's a little bit of Greek history in everybody, no matter how you came over. So, but it's just a beautiful space and a great exhibit. And we have student deals and obviously student field trips. People come with their ladies groups to come take tours. And we want to offer all of your listeners, Richard, 25% off on tickets. If you go to nationalhellenicmuseum.org, there's a code that you can enter. It's just trial 2025. I'm going to leave a pair of tickets for you because I really want you to come and check this out. Okay. But please come by the museum, give us a call, come to our website. If you want to come to this trial, you're going to come see it. Trust me. Yeah. Ask for me. We'll get you in. Ask for one of our board members or executive directors, and we're going to let you in because we really want you to see this. The educational programs that the museum offers. There's book clubs. We have an event in the springtime, and it's called Cuisina, and it's all the Greek restaurants from all across the Chicago area bring different foods in to sample. So there's really something for everyone. It's just a really fun, inclusive experience for all.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go. There's so many things that just like landed in my brain when you said that, because the importance of all of our communities and cultures it gets forgotten. And let's just be honest. And until we all make the effort of zeroing in on the importance of the diversity and in our communities, we lose something of value from a humanitarian standpoint. So I appreciate that, and definitely look forward to having you back, because you just said you got stuff going on this spring and other things that are happening. So I'll ask you this as a couple of closing questions. What else do you have going on? What else is happening right now? What are you working on? I know that the trial is a big piece right now, and I know your involvement with the museum is huge, but what are some of the other things that are on your dartboard right now?
So what we have, in addition to the exhibits that I told you about, please come check out this photograph exhibit by Diane Alexander White. It's so cool. She's incredible. And it's also kind of cool to go back and see some of these black and white photos from the 70s, and you see like the old Marshall Fields bags, people are holding at all these different parades. But that's a really fun exhibit we have going on. And we have one more called, it's basically your oral history. And you can go in and just kind of, you would love this. You just go in and you basically talk into a very small little recording studio and tell the history of how where your family came from. Wherever it was, or however you came to the United States. Because like I said, we are a nation of immigrants. So as you do this recording and you kind of talk about your history and your background, the museum will save that for future generations. They're going to put it on a little audio card, and they save that for everyone. It's just, people can come in and just listen to different histories, but it's basically an archive. So we're trying to create this big archive for present day and for future generations. So that's really neat too. And there's always something exciting going on. We do so much for students, and different schools across the whole city come and bring their kids there for field trips. It's a really beautiful space. And again, right at Halstead Van Buren, so you're right by UIC. We have a great partnership with UIC and their classics department and their law school, and they come in and they give lectures and talks. So it's very educational and really a lot of fun. We'd love to have you and any of your listeners anytime.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great having you on the show this morning, and I'm excited. I will be there next Tuesday for sure. And we can search each other out and chat about how great the performance is. How can folks find you or find you professionally to get involved, volunteer at the museum, or whatever else you might have as an assignment for them?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Please come and visit our website. It's super easy, nationalhellenicmuseum.org, all one word, nationalhellenicmuseum.org. All the information is right there about our programs. If you want to attend the trial, there's a little link right on the first page that says the Trial of Themistocles. Just click on that. Again, if you want to enter the trial code for 25% off, Trial 2025, but get a hold of us if you really want to go. We'll make sure you're there. And check out all of our different programs. And Richard, I just want to thank you so much for having me on. It's been a joy and a pleasure. And as I said, I'm such a fan of you and your show.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We do this it's a team effort. I take pride in what we get to do here. And for someone that's a legend like you here in Chicago, we also appreciate you being with us. And thank you. We'll have you back. We're going to have you back. So get yourself ready. You'll be back on again, and we'll be talking about the stuff that you're working on. How about that?
You got it. That sounds great. Thank you, Richard. I'll see you next week, and say hi to everybody at WCPT for me.
Will do. Take care, Andrea. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. Bye now. How about that, guys? Andrea Darless, National Hellenic Museum trustee and senior director of constituent engagement. That means getting folks involved at the University of Illinois here in Chicago. Thanks to Andrea for being with us this morning. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773. Let's catch her after the break, because I don't want to Yeah, we'll kind of try to wedge it in. Thanks, Devin. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Excuse me, miss. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you recommend a bank that offers a full suite of commercial banking products along with excellent service?
Yes, ABOC.
What about a bank that has been in Chicago for more than 100 years and really understands the local business climate?
ABOC.
But I manage a labor union. Can you recommend a bank that really understands how labor unions operate and what banking products they need?
Again, ABOC. ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922 and understands the local business climate better than anyone. ABOC was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders today. So they really understand how unions tick and how their needs may be different. But whether you're with a labor union or another type of business, whether you're large or small or something in between, ABOC will always make you feel like you're their most important customer. Visit ABOC.com to learn more.
Wow, thank you, random person on the street. I'm going to visit ABOC.com today.
Member FDIC.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, breezy conditions, some lingering clouds to start, then gradually clearing into the afternoon with highs in the upper 40s. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 33. For Tuesday, a slight chance for some light snow showers in the morning, then turning partly sunny into the afternoon with upper 40s for highs. Wednesday, more in the way of sunshine making a return, a high of 51. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 36.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. Great chance to talk with Andrea. And we had one of our great listeners and callers on hold during that time. I want to circle back. Before we bring Sarah on, I want to circle back to Pam real quickly because I promised her that I would do that, Devin. Hey, Pam, thank you for holding. I promised you we would come back to you, but I wanted to make sure that we kind of squeeze things in as best possible.
I appreciate that, Richard. And to your guest, that sounds like a very interesting event.
Yes,
and as well as I'm familiar with that building also, but I didn't know exactly what was going on over there. So it was good to hear that.
Absolutely.
So, Richard, I just want to stay on the line because my last words would be this. Richard, I've worked in community outreach, and it's always important to know how to reach people and the message. So all I'm asking the Democratic Party to do, don't ignore the voters, the disenfranchised voters. I mean, 3.6 million, that's a lot. The evidence is there. I'm looking for one elected official who will just publicly state that these voters were purged and off the rolls and suppressed, and that we must do something about that. For me, but for the purging, Harris and Walz would be in the White House.
If we did the math on that and say we divided it by 7 or even 6, depending on how you look at the swing states, the math would say that if that equivalent number were purged in each of those states, then that puts that way over the Harris-Walz ticket. So I can do it mathematically and say, that's what is it, roughly 200,000 or 200,000 plus votes per state, or even actually a little bit more than that. But be that as it may.
He broke it down, Richard. He broke it down according to swing states.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm confident in that. But lastly, I'm going to say, Richard, I want to call elected officials and explain my position and where I am. And here's what I'm saying. When you call and you talk to some staffers, do you know the staffers are under harassment? Democratic staffers are also under harassment from these Republican mean-spirited staffers. Do we realize that our young people we send to work in the White House or just in Congress, they're being harassed. So I'm just asking the Democratic Party, call it what it is. And you have to find a way to reach out to both. But you need to know the truth. Why did you vote Republican? Why did you vote for Trump? It wasn't the cost of eggs. It wasn't because of the Democratic position on Gaza, because Trump is still bombing Gaza. eggs
and
are
it wasn't
$8,
the border,
$10.
and it wasn't the border. Every single. Go back. Listen, guys. Let me do this, and then Pam, I'll let you go because we have to get our guest on.
I understand.
Every single item. Go back and watch some of the clips of Vice President Harris during the campaign when she became the candidate. Every single thing, just like Hillary Clinton said as well, they both laundry listed what would happen, and they both were right. So I'm tired of, and this is where Pam is right on, I'm tired of people not addressing the fact that this was not about the price of eggs. It wasn't about the southern border. It wasn't about what's happening in the Middle East. It wasn't about Ukraine. It was about culture and gender. And someone proved me wrong. And to the Democratic leaders, let's talk about that as a part of the message going forward so that we can be successful in the future elections. Pam, thanks for your passion, and I appreciate you for being with us and for sitting and holding. So thanks, Pam. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
All right, bye now. All right, guys, someone that speaks to this every day and a couple times during the day is none other than the managing editor and co-publisher of Politicus USA. I've been following this woman and her partner, Jason Easley, for a while, and I can't tell you how many times I have printed out material and articles that they have written, and I've referenced none other than Sarah Jones, who's with us this morning. Sarah, good morning and welcome to Choose Views, and thank you for holding.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really excited to be on your show. And I also just wanted to say that your caller was right on. Pam is right on. Pam, you are spot on about what's going on right now, and Democrats need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, this is the blessing of timing. Every now and again you get lucky and things time out your way. But I knew that you would appreciate what Pam was saying, so I wanted to have her wrap up what she was saying. She was on before we took our break at 7 o'clock, and I didn't want to. You know how this works. You got to hit the commercials. You got to do the things you got to do. And I thought maybe it'll be right to have her on or finish her thoughts right before Sarah comes on. Because Lord knows where you stand on this stuff, and your writings have just... Sarah, when I talk about threading the needle, or when the phrase is used of threading the needle or hitting the bullseye, I'm going to say this right now. You all need to follow Sarah Jones, Politicus USA. What she and Jason write each day, multiple times during the day, is amazing. And I so appreciate the work that you do, and I so appreciate you being a part of today's show, because we definitely have to have you back, because you strike the chord every single day. And so that being said, Sarah Jones, tell us who you are. Tell our audience who you are and a little bit about your background and how you've gotten to this point of what you're doing as managing editor.
I have been covering politics now for 15 years. I started right as Barack Obama started his first term. I was very honored to be able to cover his White House and be, credentialed to do that, and was really excited for obvious reasons, I think, because he just brought so much intellectualism and adherence to a lot of our values. So that was a great time in the country as far as I was concerned. And before that, I worked in film, and it was weird. I was still working in film, and I was listening every day to what was going on in politics. And I had been involved in politics my whole life, but not as a journalist. And I was just so angry every day listening to Republicans, mostly Republicans, not to say Democrats don't, skirt the line and mislead people sometimes, but it was predominantly Republicans, because I think that at that time, they were, I don't remember what their issue was, but there's always some culture war issue that they're kind of lying about, on TV, and they just get away with this stuff. And I thought, why is no one calling this out? And I had a background where I knew that a lot of times advertisers have power over what people can cover in the media.
Right.
And now it's like think tanks, and there's so much involved. There's so much money involved now, and of course corporate media has grown to be too big to fail at this point. And and so I just wanted to talk to people and talk about things that matter to people and speak up for people. I felt like nobody was out there speaking for the people. And I think there's plenty of people who are doing that, so I'm not trying to, say no one else is doing it. But there wasn't a loud voice out there. And so I joined Politicus. Jason had started it already, I think like 6 months to a year before I joined. And then we were so lucky during, I don't think you could do this in today's environment, but it just grew organically into this huge operation. And at one point, all on its own with no corporate money, we've never taken corporate money and never will. It grew to I don't remember, it was one of the top websites in the world. So we just got really lucky with that, and we were able to speak for the people. And, with facts, always with facts, because that's, there's so many things to take into account when you're covering all this. We want to keep people focused on what's actually happened and not fearmonger people. That's the other direction I see too many people on the left going, in my opinion. And what I am so concerned about with that is that we don't want people disengaging.
Right.
We want people to be out there, right? And so when they get scared, they don't vote, they disengage. And it's yes, of course I'm talking about before times. Right now, I do want to acknowledge for everybody, because I think everyone's being gaslit. You have every right to be afraid. You have every right to be angry. Those are natural reactions. If you don't feel those things, you're not paying attention. So those are good things. But we also need to find that place inside of ourselves where we can be the brave person standing up for our neighbor and for people who have who are more vulnerable than we are. That's a position that is important for us all to take, I think, at this point. So,
well, first of all, thank you for that delivery, because folks needed to understand the history, but also why you've written and covered things the way in which you do, because there isn't a clear voice and that's why your material, your articles are so attractive to me, because, I'll just read you guys some headlines. You should just pay attention to this. House Republican disaster. As Representative Scott Perry hides, constituents demand AOC. Did you guys hear me talk about that last week? That comes from my gal Sarah and my guy Jason. People take to the streets to save the post office from Doge. That's a Sarah piece. Republicans in big trouble as deep red Nebraska town haulers chant tax the rich. That's from Sarah and Jason. These guys are doing exactly what Sarah just said. And that's speaking to the things that so many Americans want to hear in an unfiltered, unapologetic way. And they do it in snippets, by the way. So yes, I'm kind of giving a little bit of promo to Sarah and Jason, but they deserve it because of the work that they do. And it's folks like Pam, listeners like Pam, and so many others. We had a gentleman on earlier, Andy, who talked about, okay, we've identified these issues, whether it be voter suppression, whether it be racism, sexism, and all these things mixed together. But what's the do? What's the fix? What's the answer? So I've got to ask you this question, and it's not one to put you on the spot. It's just to get how your brain is operating in this space. The vote from the Senate on the CR was definitely one where people came back to Senate Minority Leader Schumer and said, yo, dude, what the hell were you thinking? So I listened to his interview on The View, as I said earlier in today's show, and I understood his logic. I didn't fully agree with it, but I felt like the miss from Senator Schumer was, if that's where you were going to be, then you should have told us in advance, rather than letting it kind of fall out of the mouths of a few Democrats. And now you look like you're cleaning up the feces. And that is, I think, where a lot of people are right now, is that Dems, stop doing that. I'm a big supporter. You know that. But stop doing that kind of stuff. Stop letting people think, oh, they're not really organized right now. Are you seeing that, hearing that, or am I crazy?
No, I'm so glad you said that, because every day I ask myself, am I crazy? I personally, and I want to be honest with people. I feel like journalism for so long, and what we see in the Beltway is so much removal of the journalist from the impact of the policies. And that's because most journalists are kind of elite, privileged white men. And so I've been trying to walk that line for a while, and I decided with this new with this person coming back into office, I feel like people are being gaslit so much. I want to say that absolutely people should be angry. And Democrats, and Chuck Schumer specifically, what he did, in my opinion, was wrong. It was cowardly. And where this is coming from, right? This isn't coming out of the blue. We saw this over and over again. We saw this when the Democratic Party turned their back on Joe Biden, for example, because the consultancy class and because certain people at the New York Times and others were writing these conspiracy pieces about him. They turned their back on their own base. Their base had chosen him, right? To me, I was like, what is happening right now? Why are you letting the consultancy class and the donor class, and a lot of that came from the tech industry because they didn't want the regulations that Joe Biden was putting into place. So you see all this power coming together, and they are driving the Democratic Party right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because it's nothing like what's happening with the Republican Party in terms of corruption, you know. So I hate to criticize Democrats when they're sort of like the best option out there right now. On the other hand, they're not getting the message, and I think Chuck Schumer showed everyone that was his chance to have some leverage against what looks like to a lot of Americans, and I cannot say that it's not true, you know, the theft from the government by Doge, Elon Musk getting people's private data, getting their health records, getting their medical health records. This is outrageous. It's unacceptable. It's un-American. And so to have Chuck Schumer say, oh, and I understand what he gave as the reason, and I think you laid out so well why he should have, if that was true, he should have said that in the first place. Yeah. But I'm not sure that I actually believe that it is true, that he, you know, that he was told. And I'm not. You're right,
no, Sarah,
because,
listen, this is why I love your work, because, I'm biting myself not to catch up. But yes, exactly. Like, well, then if that were the case, then, dude, you should have come out from the jump and said.
And he would have, right? I think he would have if that was true. And that's the problem right there. Because what I see happening is they don't understand where their base is.
Yep.
And they are all, let's remember, and let's, like, for anyone that isn't aware, these people are all privileged. They are not being impacted the way you and I are and the way your audience is. And so for them, this is about beltway politics. How can I get reelected? How can I get a good, write-up by Politico? It is not about how can I be responsive to my constituents. And that is supposed to be the job. And that is the part where this all has gone off the rails, in my opinion. That all the influence of money in politics is really what has distanced all of those people from their constituents. And we see that at these town halls where Republicans are getting booed and yelled at, and now they're too afraid to even show up to hear from their constituents. And again, like, I know your audience knows this, but it blows my mind every day. That is your job. Last week was the week to be in your district. You're supposed to hear from the people in your district. That is what we pay you for.
Yep.
And what do? They're hiding.
That's why
because
I said,
they
Sarah, no, that's why I said, and I've been saying for a number of weeks now, the Dems need to roll into all Republican districts, and they need to go and steal their candy and cookies because it's fertile ground. And I'll be doggone if this is where I get frustrated with Schumer and Jeffries. And I've said this on the show a number of times. Y'all should be thinking strategically like that. Oh, the Republicans don't want to show up in their own districts? Let's send 5 of ours to their districts and go let the folks know in those districts. We got you. They messed up. They're stinky. Here's what we're going to do to make it better. And they won't. And it's just like, Sarah, you and I both get passionate about this, and I see it in your writings. But doggone it, if they did that and made it clear, we're coming for your stuff and we're going to your districts, people would go, oh, they're doing exactly what we as Republican voters want. And that's for you to show up as Democrats because we'll vote for y'all because some of your ideas do make more sense. And that's the frustration. And I know people hear it in my voice. I know they've heard it in your voice this morning and see it in your writings. And it's not that we don't like Democrats. For people out there, they're going, oh, there we go again. They're throwing. No, we're not. We're trying to get their attention so they do better. Yeah. You can be critical and complimentary at the same time.
Yeah, and that is part of our job as journalists. That's part of the job, even as constituents. Is if you can't criticize these people, then they're not going to be responsive to you. And I actually think, and I've been thinking about this so much, that is one place where the left, the left used to be, like, I would almost say overly critical, like they were of Obamacare, so that they don't give political cover to the people they elect, so they can pass more progressive policies. That's, got to give them political cover, got to have their back. And part of that cover is showing up for these protests. Part of that cover is making these phone calls every day to your representative to tell them what you want. So part of speaking up and criticizing them is giving them political cover to enact your will,
Bingo.
What you want to see from them. And I will say, like, what you were talking about, constituents are organizing these kind of counter town halls for Republicans who are not showing up. There's one coming up in South Carolina in Nancy Mason's district.
I know,
of all
right?
Things.
Ooh,
Right?
I'd love to be there. Would you love
crazy.
to be there? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I would love to be there. And, and I lived in Georgia, and I'll just say for a second, like, when I heard your caller talking about, and you mentioned it, one of the fights that I have had since I started writing with Democratic strategists, some of them, is they will tell me, like during the Obama years and afterwards, they would tell me, the criticism isn't racism. And I said, you know what? Not all criticism is racism, but racism is propelling and driving a lot of the base on the Republican side, deliberately being stoked by the elites. That is an age-old tactic. It's been around since there was power. They have found a way to divide us by whatever they can find. Now they're doing trans. They'll find their issue, and then they'll use that to drive a wedge between us, because that is how they distract us from, giving more tax cuts to the rich while the egg prices are soaring. This is a weapon that they use, and it's a real thing, and it's happening, and I know this because I've lived all around this country now, and I, being a white woman, people say things to me that they wouldn't say to me, I would hope, if I wasn't. And they're really sometimes disturbing, And I hear, and I get mistaken as a Republican, quite often, just on appearances.
Right.
And so people would say things to me, and and so I really understand how much that does drive what's going on. And it always bothered me that that the strategists want to pretend that's not happening, and they want to put like a fancy label on it. And a lot of that comes from, and one of them actually said to me, "Oh, you know what? You just don't understand because you live in a big blue city." I said, "Actually, right now I live in a Trump-dominated small town America." Yeah. I am surrounded by Trump supporters. I know exactly what they're thinking. They tell me every day. And you are wrong. You're the one that lives, like the strategist that lives in a blue city, and you therefore feel some kind of safety. You don't, you're in your like academic elite tower kind of making strategy for the Democratic Party based on that experience, and you're not understanding what people are experiencing all around this country, and people who, people of color, people of vulnerable status in any category that you pick are experiencing by these Trump supporters. And I'm not denigrating all Trump supporters, but there is an ugly aspect to this movement, and we've seen it over and over again. It's violent and it's ugly, and just to have Democrats.
It's not something. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And it's not going to move us forward as much as people want to think, right? Because it's all about regressive. Not even politics. It's about a regressive society. It's about, and I talked about this all the time. But it's about taking us back to a time when straight white quote Christian men with some nationalistic beliefs run everything. And, if we don't say that out loud, we'll never get to fixing it. It's about having women barefoot and pregnant, to be literal. It's about having enslavement, Jim Crow, and after World War II isms throughout the country. It just is. And that's where I think sometimes we have to cut through the filter. And listen, Vice President Harris did her best in that space, but I think a lot of what you said earlier about the technocrat and the what did you call them? The data elite and the consultants. Thank you, the consultant elite. Yeah. They keep getting it wrong because what they're putting into their mix to come up with a cake are the wrong ingredients. They're putting the wrong, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, or your observation, they're putting the wrong stuff in to come up with the analysis to get to a point where they can actually consult in this current climate. No?
Absolutely. And that's because they're coming from a place of privilege. Like, again, that is not where most Americans are coming from. And the Democratic Party is supposed to be the party, and they did plenty of policies. They have been great on policy for working people. And I want to be very clear about that. I think Nancy Pelosi ushered through really incredible policy. So did Joe Biden, former President Joe Biden. They've been great on policy. But then there becomes this disconnect with how they respond and what they fight for in terms of these other issues. And that's where I agree with you 100%. And you know what I wanted to share with you, because you kind of touched on this, and it's something that I see happening that I'm kind of excited about, actually. So maybe a good thing to pop in there before you have to. One of the things you talked about, all these aggressive policies, and for years they've been fighting for all of this, right? The Republican Party. But this is the first time in my lifetime people are actually seeing the result of those policies. And it happened when they overturned Roe, and now it's happening with the Department of Education, and it's happening with USAID. It's happening with all these things that they are destroying, and Social Security, Medicaid, And people, it's so easy to fight against a policy and a right when it's already established. Mm-hmm. When you start to take those things away, all of those arguments, the reasons why they weren't good arguments become very clear. People are experiencing them firsthand. So now Republicans are going to have to start facing
the results of those bad policies,
yes,
and the results of the things that they said they believed in, or that they thought they were advocates for, how destructive they are to the person that's right next to you. It could be your spouse, it could be grandma, grandpa, niece, nephew, and the list goes on. Right there, immediately connected to you, not some far off person 3 states away, but right there. And that to me is the fertile ground that the Democratic Party, the Democratic leadership, they have to do what Governor Pritzker's doing, I believe, here in Illinois. He's taken the fight on. He has leaned in hard to say, no, not on my watch, and here's what we're going to do about it. And I would hope, I'm praying that the leadership on the national level takes a little bit of sauce from Governor Pritzker in that space. Sarah, you can hear the music, which means I have to shut up and you and I have to wrap up. But you are going to be back because I love your work, yours and Jason's. It's phenomenal.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Sarah Jones, y'all, managing director and co-publisher of Politicus USA, the daily Politicus USA. Check her out. We'll have you back, Sarah. Have a great day. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
There it is, guys. Wrapping it up. But what a great, great segment with Sarah. She's phenomenal. Follow her work. Reach out to me if you need more information on that. Thanks for being with us this morning. As always, progressives, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
I had the worst dream last night. You were in a car crash and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, hon.
My brother got life insurance from Ethos and it only took 10 minutes. And he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. It's all online. No medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house.
Ethos, here we come.
Visit ethos.com/news. That's ethos.com/news.
Sample rate is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
Protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive so you can stop worrying about them and invent new things to worry about, like snakes in your bedroom. Sure, that sounds incredibly irrational, but now that we've mentioned it, you are a little worried. The odds of one snake, let alone snakes plural, are so slim. But you might want to check. Oh, you're not near your bedroom. Guess you'll just have to sit there and worry about it. So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Hey there, it's Carrie Joy Breaks Down. Try your best not to use them for everyday type expenses. That could cost you a lot more over time.